Hey, legends, and welcome to another episode of Harder to Kill, where Coach Mick, Stuart, and I take a different topic every week and teach you guys all about it. This week is probably, I would say, our most important episode to date, and possibly one of the more important episodes we're ever going to do in Harder to Kill. And we're talking all about sleep today. Mick, how are you, mate?
Mate, feeling great. It's a good day.
Good man. And if you are watching live, guys, give us a bit of love, just like Corey has, giving us a hashtag live. There's a link in the description to the video that you can log into, and that way we can see your comments and your lovely little faces as you do comment. And I'm just going to put that into the I'm just going to put that link in because I've just seen somebody else comment, anonymous Facebook user. So I've just put a link in the comments. Click on that fact.blive.comments, and that way we can bring you on screen, just like Tammy, just like Dominica.
Hey, Tammy. Hey.
Yep. And Funzy's here as well. What's happening today, Michael?
Well, I'm really excited about this one. Talking about sleep,
Me too, man.
It's the unsung hero of all of it: performance, recovery, sanity, and all that sort of stuff. And especially now, like, I think it's something we need to talk more about, because you've got people who follow the Gary V way of life trying to think I need to sleep less, work harder, and hustle. But yet, after this chat, I hope they're going to be thinking, hey, first thing I need to do is think about how I'm going to be sleeping.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. It's so important. And leading into this chat, I've been doing a lot of research on sleep, and I've been somebody who over the past couple of years has come to value sleep, and I used to sleep deprive myself an awful lot. I used to work crazy hours. I still work pretty crazy hours, but I will focus on the sleep now. And for example, I ran a boot camp at the Sunny Coast yesterday, so I was up super early. Went to sleep really late the night before. Same thing last night, was asleep really late, and I was supposed to be out hiking today, and I woke up at 5 a.m. and just didn't feel it. And I'm like, no, I need to fucking sleep. I need to be in the zone. I've got to do a live video later. I've got the challenge starting, and if I don't sleep, I'm going to be a miserable fuck, and I'm not really going to be very good on camera. So I've come to value sleep a lot more in the last couple of years. And man, just in the last week, 2 weeks of research, I'm like, I've had heaps of little level ups where I've gone, fuck, this is way more important than I thought. How long have you been on the sleep train, man? Have you always cared, or is it more recent?
For me, it's been a bit of both. So I've been on it for a bit now, like probably about especially the last year, last 12 months, I really had to dial that in, because my lifestyle at that point was not the best for it, and I needed to know how to be more efficient on it. But I was also on the other spectrum. So before I was all Mr. Health and Fitness, biohacking the body, longevity, all that sort of stuff, I was in the other spectrum. I was actually an animation and games design. And there was points, like, I still remember the day me and my mate, we had a project we were doing. We averaged 20 minutes sleep a day for 5 days.
Yeah.
We went through the whole, was like, oh man, it was more than not good. It was so unhealthy that just to function, we got to those later days. So I think it was around about day 3 and 4 where we started. We were like, our breakfast cocktail was go down to the cafe when it opens, get ourselves some long black, drink half the long black, pour some Red Bull in that, take a no-dose, and that would get us through to lunch.
Yeah.
We came out looking like, I looked like white Skeletor, because I was also working at a service station at the time, so it was constantly back and forth. And one, I'm surprised I didn't die when I was driving, and I'm surprised I still have a functioning liver, because it just got smashed with all the crap we put it through just to do that stuff. So yeah, no, and
yeah,
sleep's been something that ever since then, and when I got into health and fitness and everything, you really discover it's the thing that really makes the difference.
It does, man. It's so fucking important, and that story resonates with me. I've gone through certain parts of my life where I've lived on energy drinks, and you're really, really burning the wick at both ends. When I first started as a PT when I first started business face to face. I was sleeping in my car between sessions, man. Like I was at the gym at, 4:30, 5 a.m. every single day. I was leaving the gym at 9, 10 p.m. at night. And then you're going home and doing your social media work. So you're getting a couple hours sleep a night. You might have a nap in the middle of the day. And the interesting thing that I think most of all when I look back is at those times, I didn't consider myself impaired. So I thought I was like running on full steam, but you're fucking really not. You just don't notice how bad you've slid and how bad your performance has dropped. And Reese is here. He says, I do love sleep despite my lack of it. So this shall be exciting. It's definitely going to be fucking enlightening. I'm hoping a lot of people come away from this talk today with a newfound respect for sleep. I hope, like myself, you the ego aside and stop trying to be bravado about the amount of sleep you can handle and give yourself the sleep that you need. Now, Mick, I fucked up while I was trying to set up the chat. So what I'm going to do, man, is I'm just going to take a minute to share it.
Good.
In a couple of places, just to make sure that the people who want to catch us today know where we're at. Is there anywhere you wanted to kick off today, starting about sleep? Is there anything?
Well, that's the funny thing. It's like, where do you kick off with sleep, except for the fact you've got to get it?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick us off if you want.
Yeah, you start us, man. I want to see where we will leave this on because I got so I'm just pumped about this.
Let's start with why should you sleep? What are the what are the benefits? Now, if Michael and I came out and said live on the video today, hey guys, we've got a brand new supplement that we've formulated. It's a brand new formula, brand new product, and here is some of the benefits. It's going to make you live longer. It's going to enhance your memory. You're going to get more creative, more attractive. It's going to keep you slim. It's going to lower your cravings. It's going to protect you from cancer, dementia. Your immune system will be stronger. We're going to lower your risk of heart attack. We're going to lower your cholesterol, your risk of stroke, diabetes. You're going to have a better mood. You're going to have lower chance of depression and lower anxiety. Would you buy our pill?
You left out the important part. You're going to lose fat.
What's that? Yeah, well, no, I did. I did say it's going to keep you slim and it's going to lower your cravings.
Yeah.
It's going to block things like your ghrelin and shit like that. Man, it's pretty much anything you want to fucking achieve. Sleep is like your miracle cure. Sleep is like your miracle drug. And if this is a drug, if this was something we were selling people, you and I would be very rich men. And
oh shit, yeah.
Almost everyone I know is sleep deprived. Almost everyone doesn't get enough sleep. And they have this simple thing that they can take and enhance their life and improve their performance and improve pretty much every aspect of everything they're trying to do. And they fucking deny themselves of it. And it's a crazy, crazy thing. We've got to look at why we sleep, because it can be difficult to go into sleeping with a mentality that you're losing time. It's frustrating that we spend a third of our lives asleep. You're going to sleep, if you live to an average age, you're going to sleep 25 to 30 years of your life. And that's pretty fucking crazy, right? So years ago, I sort of had the idea, well, what if I could hack my brain? What if I could hack my body so I could get away with 4 hours sleep a night consistently? How much more could I achieve? What could I do with that extra 4 hours a night? I could learn a language. I could learn skills. I could do all sorts of shit, play more video games, whatever the fuck I want to do, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to really hack your sleep, Mick, to get less of it?
Yeah, actually, there was a time I did do that, and it was quite functioning. It was a really cool. I did about 6 months last year. But to talk about that sleep, and I will get into talk about what I was doing for that, is I also want you to think of it another way. Is like, instead of thinking about getting less sleep, what would you do if that sleep gave you more ability to get more done in the time you already had?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. That's the problem. This is a great. I'm glad you said it that way, because when people think of sleep, a lot of people, we get this mentality, and even I used to wear it in my animation days as a badge of honor. Oh, mate, I've only slept 20 minutes in the last 3 days. I'm
Yeah.
maximizing my time that I'm awake, and it's like, no, you are literally doing the opposite.
Yeah.
And I know this because there was, and as I was saying, last year there was time where I did 6 months because I just had so much going on, and that I was in Brisbane. I was working at 3 different locations whilst also trying to build up my online profile for my online coaching and everything like that. And I was like, you know what, instead of trying to just being overwhelmed by it, I said this was a great research piece of how well I could hack my sleep by using certain implements and routines to maximize my lesser days. But even then, I still found at some point there was my limitations. The funny part about this was, though, I didn't realize those limitations till COVID hit and everything slowed down, and I actually got proper sleep. And then it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
game buster. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Like the first myth we could talk about is like everyone talks about that 8 hours sleep. You've got to have 8 hours as the optimum.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that is they've now recently come out saying you don't really need 8 hours. 6 hours quality is great. 7.5 hours is optimum. More than that can be done and can, depending on your level, but it's a balance of what's your output through the day is how much you're going to recover. It's just like your training, If you train really hard, you need more rest. If you're not training as hard, you don't need as much rest to recover.
I would say everyone has an optimum level, and it's going to be between 7 to 9 hours. It's going to be somewhere in that ballpark. Some people just naturally sleep a bit longer. Some people naturally sleep a little bit less. But the people who come out and say, "I just need 4 hours a night," it's not right. But you certainly can raise your sleep efficiency. So if you're somebody who you're going to bed and you're in bed for 9 hours, 10 hours, but you're only getting 8 hours sleep, or you're using blue screens before bed and you're or you're drinking coffee before bed or drinking alcohol before you sleep, the efficiency and the quality of your sleep, even though you're asleep for a longer period, is going to be a lot less than if you're doing all the things right and really hacking the quality of that sleep. So that's what we're talking about when we say you're going to be able to get away on a little bit less sleep. But it's like a little bit less sleep, right? It's not like a dramatic amount. You're not going to be able to get away on 2 to 3 hours a night.
Well, you can, as long as you you train it, but you can't do it like, you're not going to get on that 3 hours sleep every day for the next 365 days of the year,
I would disagree with you there in that. I would disagree with you there in that I'm definitely somebody who does a lot of crazy endurance events. I used to do crazy whole weekend shifts in project management. I would say I'm pretty well conditioned to go long times without sleep. Like, I handle it better than say the average person who hasn't done that conditioning, but it still has an effect. Like, I know I can go 3 or 4 nights on 4 hours sleep, but I need to fucking catch it up. Like, if I don't have that sleep at the end, the big sleep to try and bank it again, you cannot just keep burning that wick. Well, eventually you will burn out.
I like that you said banking it, because that's the funny thing. And of course, just like you getting hammered today, I've been hammered this week as well on whatever. And there's a study showing you can bank your sleep beforehand, but you can't bank your sleep after.
You can catch up on sleep debt, but you'll never fully recover the sleep you've lost if you're trying to catch it up.
No, you can't actually catch up on sleep.
No.
That's what they said. The study shows you can't catch up on the sleep, but if you know that the sleep is actually you're going to have lack of sleep, you can bank it beforehand. They do this actually with
a lot of special forces.
What is it? So not just special forces, more actually with the hospital scene, because they like residents and all that sort of stuff end up doing 20 to 30 hours straight and stuff like that, and have to be cognizant. They did a study where they actually made them do when they had their downtime, they did 10 hours average sleeping going into it.
Yep.
Had better outperformance at the later end of their 30 to 45 hour shifts than the people that didn't bank. And that's what they found. But trying to recover that is never going to happen. So it's like you can actually bank your sleep going forward. So let's take the GC sort of thing, all the events that's coming up. You know, if you guys are doing like the ultra going into the hurricane heat, like you are going into the next day, you're not going to get a full night's sleep that night because the hurricane heat's going to finish at about 10. So you'll probably get 11 o'clock. You're going to get to bed. You know, then you got to be up early because I assume you're going to be in the first run for probably the super and sprint on the second day.
Mm-hmm.
And that. So right leading into that, you know you're not going to get the best sleep. So you're going to be better off the few days beforehand taking extra hours sleep. And I thought that was really cool because, again, we've grown up with that whole idea of you can't bank shit.
No, I've definitely been doing this. I looked into this years ago and saw that the special forces do it. So they bank sleep going into big operations, and I've been doing it for ages. So and probably to the detriment of, now that I know a little bit better, but if I'm going into, say, a huge Spartan weekend where I'm doing hurricane heats, trifectas, I will take sleeping pills like the few nights before to make sure that I have like those 10, 11, 12 hour sleeps. Now I know a little bit better, sleeping pills are the enemy. But definitely I've found that if I can bank that sleep prior, I'm going to be able to weather that sleep debt a lot more. And when I say you recover from your sleep debt, this is something that a lot of people watching will probably relate to, in that you're getting by on 5-6 hours sleep a night during the week, and then you get to the weekend and you'll sleep until 10 a.m. and you'll have this massive 12-hour sleep. And this rebound is your body trying to fill the void of that sleep debt. You can never ever completely catch up, but your body will rebound. So like what should be happening is you should be going to sleep and you should be waking up without an alarm clock, well rested after 7 to 8 hours, 8.5 hours, whatever it is. And that's ideally how you should be sleeping. But that's not what a lot of people do. A lot of people are getting woken up by their alarm clocks during the week, feeling tired, and then their bodies are frantically trying to fucking catch it up on the weekends. But it's a bad thing. Another thing you said about, people thinking about losing time of sleep. And it's not that. You've got to think of it as what you're gaining by getting a good night's sleep in productivity. It's the same. I see a really strong parallel in how I explain to people when they tell me they don't have time to exercise. So if I've got somebody who's completely sedentary and they're not doing any exercise, and I'm talking to them about sorting their shit out, if they're like, I just can't, I don't have time to exercise, I'll say, well, if you add a couple of hours exercise into your week, like half an hour a day, if you can add that into your day, even at the cost of your sleep, if you're adding that half an hour exercise in, you're going to sleep better. The quality of your sleep is going to be better. Your energy levels are going to be better. Your mood's going to be better. So even though you've actually taken that half an hour out of your daily schedule, you will actually be in front at the end of the day. And sleep's very much like that. Even though you're sleeping more, the hours that you are awake, you'll be so much more productive. So that's sort of what we're talking about there.
That's perfect, yeah, because it's like what people don't realize is, and I actually know this from when I was doing what I was doing, what I was saying is, like, when you go too long without proper sleep, you start mimicking the same motor deficiencies as you would if you've had too much to drink. So you think of these people that have just had lack of sleep and driving on the regular, they won't blow the same. They won't, if they got pulled over, they wouldn't get pulled up for drink driving, but their driving ability would be the same as if they've had too much to drink.
Yeah. I can actually give you some exact stats for that. It was an Australian study that did a test on. So they did basically a reflex test where there's a light that flashes and people have to press a button. And they were doing a test to see how fast people's reaction times were, and they found that if you are awake for 19 hours, you're going to have the same reaction time as somebody who has 0.08 blood alcohol levels, which is even more than the legal driving in Australia. That's the legal driving for America. So we're 0.05. So if you've been awake for 19 hours, your reaction time is going to be impaired the same amount as somebody who's got a 0.08 blood alcohol level. And that's somebody, like, think about that. That's 19 hours. So if you get up at 6 a.m., what's that? 6 p.m. is 12 hours. So another 7 hours onto that. So what, 1 a.m.? So if you get up 6 a.m. and you're driving home from a night out, 1 a.m. sober, you are just as impaired being tired as you are if you have a blood alcohol of 0.8. And I don't know the stats for Australia, but in the States, in the United States, people who are driving while tired, it kills one person an hour in the States, which is a fucking crazy statistic. Driving while tired kills more people than driving on drugs and alcohol combined, and it's the leading, or one of the leading causes of death in most developed nations. It's like crazy hectic, and we're like so apathetic about it. Like, we just don't give a fuck about being tired, right?
Well, it comes down to this lifestyle now. Everyone's all about the maximize your day, gotta hustle and stuff like that. And there's time, some of the best, that's where we're falling into now. Like, I still get my friends give me, like, when I put up a photo of me napping in my hammock or something, I still get friends giving me shit about it. And it's like, hey, I do this, and then I'm still going to be able to do all the things I do, talk to people and do all the information I need to do and stuff longer. But yet now the idea of like that is just seems so foreign. It's just, no, you've got to hustle.
You're soft.
Yeah. Whereas when you started out as a PT, and I mean, same time when I was starting PT, if you were with fellow PTs, they had no problem you having a nap during the day. It was like between your sessions, it was actually sort of how you got sleep, as you just said. You wouldn't sleep at night because it's all programming, social media. The only time we did get to sleep was like, oh, great. Client just called me up, cancelled for this hour, so now I can quickly grab myself 45 minutes of sleep, grab another coffee, and be ready for the next session.
Damn right. My I used to sleep in my car in the car park. The guy I used to work with used to just go and sleep in the disabled toilet. He'd just lock himself in the disabled bathroom. So he was always napping in there.
I was lucky. We had a staff area where it had all the bean bags when I first started at the PT studio, and it was just like we all just
sick.
If you were able to get in there and go to step, fine. Otherwise, you just grab a bit of floor.
Yeah. And Candace has said, I cannot sleep the night before a Spartan, like waking every hour. So much nervous energy, sleep banking might just work. But should a person take melatonin or something the night before? We can talk a little bit about this, about the only time I would be supplementing melatonin is if you're jet lagged. So I would not be taking any sort of supplementation to sleep if you're in your normal habitat and time zone. But if you're traveling and there's jet lag, which is a very, very real thing, then melatonin can help. But we'll talk about that soon.
Oh, yeah.
Another really, really interesting thing, when you sleep, you have no concept of time, right? You wake. Sometimes you wake up from a nap and you're like, fucking, what day is it? But our brains subconsciously are actually really good at tracking the real time. So if I know I have an event, I've never slept in for a fucking event. I had a boot camp yesterday. I had like 3 hours fucking sleep, and I woke up before the alarm clock, because I knew that I had to be up. And because you like tell yourself you have to be up the night before, you wake up without an alarm clock. And I'm sure a lot of people would be able to relate to that when they have something really important or really exciting that they're waking up for. You wake up like 2 minutes before your alarm goes off. And that just shows how accurate your body is actually tracking the time subconsciously. Super interesting.
Yeah, well, it's actually, the funny thing about that is, like, for you yourself, as you said, you had no problem waking up before an event because you're very confident in like knowing the event's on and stuff like that. You're not going in worrying about, are they going to have this that's going to throw me off? And what Candace was doing about, that's more of a fear state. And this is like, as we talked about fear 2 weeks ago,
So it's an anxiety
That's where
thing.
the whole, when you're going into your sleep, you're worried about, you're either excited, but there's also probably part of you that's worried about, oh, this might happen. And I've had that myself, worried about missing, that I kept waking up. It wasn't until I learned to control the fear state and then be the confident. And by doing that, it was like writing and stuff. And this is where we can talk about routines and later in this set. But yeah, it's that how, if you're going to sleep more aroused mentally because
I
you're,
always
oh
go to
my
sleep
God, tomorrow's
aroused.
the event, oh my God. And then you might actually be not, you're excited, but there's also that, oh my God, I don't know what it's going to be like. There could be something. Yes, that will actually stop you going into proper sleep, which will cause you to keep waking up probably every hour and a half or so, or every hour, due to the fact that it's just, that's when you're in your shadow. You're not going in your deep REM sleep. You're just maintaining a height. It's the same thing they used to have back in the day when it would be the time of when you were camping by a fire during battle days of the battlefields and everything. Your sleep cycle, because you knew you had to be able to get some form of sleep, but still be quite alert just in case something was going to happen, your body would shift. And this is where we have so many different levels of sleep. And unfortunately, that's where people are mostly only focusing on that shallow part. That's the only part they get because everyone's, I got work tomorrow, I've got all this, I've got an event tomorrow, I'm freaking out and stuff.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk about why it's important that you get deep sleep. And there is different layers of sleep, different levels of sleep that you get, and you go through cycles, which I think you mentioned last week, about 90-minute cycles.
Yeah.
And there's going to be slight variation depending on person to person, but you don't just sleep for 8 hours the same way. You sort of go dip into these cycles of deep sleep and alertness, and it sort of works like a sine wave. Kerry's just said, have either of you found an audio sleep app useful? I track my sleep on my Oura Ring, which has got some fancy like electronics in there. Tracks all sorts of metrics, and we will talk about that at the end. Do you track with anything, Mick?
I track several different ways, actually. So yes, I do have some audio stuff I use for like that photo of me and my puppy. That was me grabbing myself a quick 45-minute nap. I do use some binaural audios to actually help create better cognitive function for sleep for me, which I find does help. And some are really good, some are not so good. You got to find what sort of relates with you. Then I use just a simple sleep tracker that listens to my audio. So it lets me know how my breathing is for me. And then of course my Garmin does my little how you sleep. And I use these as a sort of a benchmark. I don't use them as like gospel. It's more of a benchmark. My biggest tool is when I wake up, I write down, do I remember anything about my sleep and how I feel. That generally puts me in a good headspace and a head start of where I feel. And then I go to all the metrics to see how it relates, because when we get caught up on the metrics too much, there's a lot of times people be like, oh, I've looked at my phone and said, you only got 40% quality sleep, but I've woke up feeling amazing. And even my training has been great. And then sometimes it says you've got the best sleep ever. And I've woke up feeling like straight up ass and couldn't even run to save my life.
Yeah. I think it's very important that you, no matter what your goal is or the metrics that you're tracking, that you just treat data like data sometimes. Like sometimes when I've got clients who are training for Spartan or something like that, they get really in their head about what the scales say. And it's like the scales is such a small part of your fitness journey. Like you're getting stronger, you're getting faster, you're getting fitter, your dress sizes are changing, but you're really worried about this number on the scales, and it's like such a small fucking part of it. Like it's really important that you don't get obsessive about any one particular metric and just treat it like a data point. Just treat it for what it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely agree with that.
Definitely.
Someone that went from 150 kilos down to 95 and is now 115. I hate the scales.
Yeah. But you can really get in your head. Yeah, you can really get in your head and do some damage if you get You know, if you start to attract the wrong meaning to certain data points, you can get obsessive, you can get compulsive. It's a bad thing. Kara says, I didn't sleep well on Friday night. Woke up feeling drunk almost yesterday. Happens all the time when I don't sleep properly. Scary to think people will be driving around or working in some industries like that. Yeah, fuck. I was bad for it. I've had micro sleeps on the highway and woken up in other lanes. I've had micro sleeps and woken up in the shoulder. I've fallen asleep at traffic lights and woken up and all the cars are gone. Like, fuck, I think about the shit that I used to do driving tired. And I was always like, I wouldn't drive drunk. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'll catch an Uber. But I was so like nonchalant about driving tired. It's
One time last Christmas, I decided to work at a valet just because Christmas season and just to make a bit extra cash, had some spare time.
Sure.
I was so sleep deprived. I remember getting in one of the cars because at the airport.
Yeah.
And there was a whole bunch of cars in front of me. I had to wait for the other guys second. Closed my eyes, woke up, all the cars were gone. I was like, holy shit, I just fell asleep.
Yep.
And yeah, it's scary to think that like that can happen. And I mean, I remember when I was doing the animation and stuff, because I was traveling down to the Gold Coast from Brisbane, and that highway is so boring. I remember it was like, okay, we're going down to the Gold Coast. Driving to the servo, let's get 3 Red Bulls ready to go. Bang, bang, bang. And that was only just to go half an hour down the road, just to keep me conscious, because one, it's boring, there's no stimulation, and yeah, being sleep deprived, you do wake up and you're like, holy crap, the amount of times you think back, you didn't hit anything. It's crazy. And yeah, as you said, no one likes the idea of driving drunk. Most people don't want to do it. But yeah, no one has a second thought thinking, oh, I'm a little tired, let's just drive.
Yeah. I can think of times where I've micro slept on the motorbike, riding a motorbike, and that's 2 seconds, man. You're fucking dead. Back when I had the jet bike, not so much on the Harley now because it's not my everyday ride. But back when I had the sports bike, and I didn't have a car, I was on the motorbike every day. So yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you're driving, it's not the being able to fall asleep. It's the micro sleep. It's you're still driving, but your body just shuts off all the input. You're not getting any sensory input anymore. You literally have these little sleeps, these little micro sleeps, and somebody next to you might still think you're completely awake, but you're not. You just have fucking nothing. So if this happens while you're going around the corner, you're dead. And as we said, it kills one person an hour in the United States. So pretty crazy stuff. Just got a couple more comments. Darren, I'm the same. If I have anything in the morning, don't need to set an alarm, just get up just in case, but usually wake up 5 minutes. Yeah, we've got amazing internal clocks. Candace nailed it. 2 issues, travel, jet lag, and fear of waking up late, missing my start time. Yeah. Jet lag is a big one, and we will talk about that shortly. We're going to talk about some circadian rhythms and why we sleep when we sleep. Kara's just said, what app do you use to track what app do you track the sleep?
So it's a nice little app I use. It's called, let me bring it up.
I used to have one called Sleep
Cycle. Well, this is Sleep Cycle. And that, hang on, let me bring it up. I like it because, like, yeah, it's easy, pretty simple. There we go.
Sleep. I think I used to have
but
that.
Again, if you guys like, I'll put the link up later on.
You should be able to just type a comment in if you want, I think. Can you see the comments on the right side there, Mick?
I can. I've just only got it on my phone, so it's easy for me to do it that way.
Sure.
I find, but it's just called Sleep Cycle. They're all pretty good. The ones that can actually just go to your phone, go next to your bed and stuff like that. The thing is about it, you've also got to watch out with this sort of thing because, so with me, I've got a protocol that I make sure my phone is in flight mode, and there's certain things I do, like changing the light of my phone before I go to bed.
Dark mode.
Dark mode. I actually change it to a full. So for me, I've set my phone up so if I press it 3 times, it goes red. So that red hue actually helps block the whole exposure. Like I'm wearing these glasses now, which we're probably going to talk about as well, blue light and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is where, if you can have your phone, I mean, I will admit, if I was going to recommend anything, it'd be the Oura Ring you've got. That's the best, like, number one standard out of all the coaches I've followed and communicated with and stuff like that. It is by far the tops when it comes to understanding the sleep cycle and getting a good feedback of the body, rather than the Whoop and all those other things that have all the fancier stuff and all the things you don't really need as much. The Oura Ring is like A1, but otherwise, if you want to use your phone, I use this sort of stuff.
Yeah, the Aura's expensive, to be fair. You're probably going to pick it up for 400 or 500. I think the base ring, probably maybe 400 Aussie. So it's not.
But that's a once off. That's a once off. Whereas if you go to Whoop, you're paying a subscription and all that sort of stuff for years.
Yeah. Like I value it. I think it's worth the money, but I'm in fitness. I spend a lot on fitness. I usually have a few gym memberships. So usually I've got all the trackers. I've got all the heart rate monitors. For me, and tech is something that I value. Yeah. Like it's what I spend my money on. Some people struggle to justify a $20 a week gym membership. So it just depends what you value, what you care for, and what your budget's at. So let's talk about why we sleep. Obviously, we've spoken about the benefits of it. Basically, every creature that we know of sleeps in some capacity. So every single creature sleeps. And we go back to worms 500 million years ago, they have a form of sleep. Cats, dogs, insects, fish, sharks, they all sleep. So when you look at things that every animal's got and it's evolved on so many different pathways and through so many different species, there's got to be a reason for it. Evolution sometimes makes some weird choices, but for the most part, natural selection, you end up with the stuff that promotes the species. So sleep is super important. And you see this evolutionary pressure when you look at, different sea creatures and land animals that have both developed eyes throughout, different pathways, but they've both developed vision, even though it works different ways. So you've got this evolutionary pressure to create eyes because vision is so important, and sleep's the same. Every single creature has some form of sleep. And we, as far as humans go, getting by on about 8 hours, we actually have the most efficient sleep out of most primates. So our sleep is much more efficient. We also have a lot more REM sleep than our primate brothers. So when we look at, sleeping 8 hours a day is maybe inefficient and it's a pain in the ass. That's true, but it's actually a lot more efficient than, say, baboons or gorillas who might sleep 12 hours. I think the opossum sleeps about 19 hours a day. Some of the big cats sleep a really long time. So 8 hours is a pretty good sweet spot for where we're at. Do you have anything to sort of add on that, Mick?
No, that's perfect. Sleep is that important. The funny thing about sleep is it's the reason for our development. We develop greater cognitive function, sleep, because the one thing that comes from sleep is our brain's ability to transfer memories from the frontal lobe to the lower part of our brain through the whole process of when we sleep, and to make long-term memories from short-term to long-term.
Yeah, and we'll definitely go into that.
Much longer.
Yeah, I definitely want to go into the types of sleep and what they do and why they're important.
Yep.
And certainly sleep is huge for memory, for taking stuff out of that random access daily memory into that long-term storage. Yep. Let's talk about why we sleep when we sleep. So most people would probably be pretty familiar with circadian rhythm, or the term a circadian rhythm, and we've already spoken about jet lag. So our bodies are conditioned to sleep with the day-night light cycle. And some people's circadian rhythms vary, but for the most part, you're conditioned to sleep a few hours after the sun goes down, and you're conditioned to get up either just after the sun comes up or just before. And you already spoke about blue light, Mick, and you have your phone set so it turns to red light, because that stops the cortisol production, which is one of the things that gets us out of bed in the morning. So light is one of the things that programs our circadian rhythms, but there are a few other things. Do you want to talk a little bit about blue light, Mick?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so blue light, again, as you're talking about eyes being developed and stuff like that, we're very visual creatures and stuff like that. And with the extra blue light, it throws off your circadian rhythm because blue light mimics the same sort of parameters as normal sunlight. It's not as good as normal sunlight. There's so many other things behind it that are great. But because the blue light, it creates stimulus. And when the stimulus is releasing all different hormones, as we said, cortisol especially one of them. And by the overactive, that actually causes your body to be thrown out of its circadian rhythm. Yeah, so that's why, and this is why you see with my glasses right now, even though it's only the afternoon, I still like to when I'm on screens because rising sun, because we are still, even though we like to be evolved. Oh man, looking good.
Got the blue. You can see the blue blocker actually.
Yeah. Even though we like to be like, oh, we are the highly evolved, we are still creatures of the environment, which is
we're still fucking animals, man.
Yeah, still animals. And because of all these man-made things where we've got computers, we've got light switches, we've got everything to keep us up, to keep bright at the night, because they are so bright and we like to see, that is now causing our sleep cycle to just be completely thrown out of whack because we're still thinking it's still light. It's like when you've ever gotten up at the middle of the night and you're like, I need a drink of water, and you've gone to the fridge. Bang, that's hit you, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you've had that water, and you go to bed, and you're like, I actually don't feel that tired anymore. Why don't I just get up?
Yeah. It's like when you do get up to piss, and you're like, I'm not going to turn the lights on because then I won't be drowsy enough to go back to sleep. But then you're tripping all over shit.
Yeah. And that's the same thing. And that's because with all these man-made evolution things. Back in the day when we had fire, that was a different story because that was a amber light. Doesn't mimic the same parameters as UV light and sunlight and stuff like that. So that's why you could sit around the fire, have a campsite, and then, you might even be around the fire till late at night, but you'd still get a really good sleep because the fire is a different sort of element of light. That's why I mimic the whole. Yeah, and that's why I've got the red light when I change mine. That's why the blue blockers are really good. Yeah,
I like that. Mine goes into like a yellow shift, and I've set like the hours so it does it with the sun. So as soon as the sun goes down, it like yellow shifts, and I'll be on my iPad or my laptop. They're all set the same way, and I'll be typing away in my office, and then all of a sudden it'll go and change, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? But it's designed to stop that blue light output.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I've got the same thing on my phone. The reason I go to the red one is for later at night, even the whole.
I like that.
What do they call it? Nighttime mode, night safe mode light that they have phones and screens have. That still is lets through some blue light, not all of it. Like it does diminish it, but it still lets out a bit because due to the fact of it's you've still got to interact with what people are usually watching stuff or whatever, and there's all those color spectrums you want to be able to find. When you go to red, when you go to deep red, it actually blocks out all blue, which does make it light, which mimics more of the fire amber light we used to be used to with kerosene lamps and stuff before we made the jump to electricity and LED lights and fluorescent lights and stuff like that.
Electricity basically fucked up everything.
Oh yeah.
But our natural circadian rhythms are still there, and they're controlled by your suprachiasmatic nucleus. Is the bit in your head which controls what your circadian rhythms are doing, and they're actually super. Everyone's got them, and they're not super accurate, but they rely on a lot of feedback from the outside world to calibrate regularly. And the light is one of the things that calibrates. There are, I think they're called zygotes, which are the signals that your brain picks up that program your circadian rhythms. I can't remember But light is one of the biggest ones. Temperature is another one. And a couple of guys did some studies where they went into some caves. I think it was the Mammoth Caves or something. And these two scientists, they went into these caves and just lived in total darkness for fucking ages. And they basically programmed their, kept track of when they were naturally falling asleep and what their circadian rhythms were doing. And they found out that in general, the average human circadian rhythm will advance 15 minutes a day. So it's not exactly 24 hours. It will actually work itself forward a little bit if it doesn't have those signals to recalibrate. But for the most part, your circadian rhythms are pretty set for what they are. And this is why jet lag fucks us up so much. This is why if you leave Sydney at 7 a.m. and you go to New York on the other side of the planet, and I don't know what time it would be in New York at 7 a.m. in Sydney, you're now there at, say, midday when it's the middle of the night in Sydney, and everything about your circadian rhythm is telling you to sleep, even though it's midday and it's bright outside. And your circadian rhythm will adjust about an hour a day. So if you fly to a new time zone on the other side of the planet, it's going to take you like 12 days to get back to your baseline and super adjust. Do you have any experience traveling with jet lag, Mick?
Not really jet lag. I have actually talked to a few clients and experimented this because I did have clients that did do travel from one went from Hong Kong to London, all that sort of stuff and everything like that. And we actually, because of that, and it can move an hour a day. We use that as a way to sort of hack it as well, by actually starting to get their day, going to bed an hour earlier and getting up an hour earlier, leading into it, which did help diminish the use of jet lag.
Sure.
When she went over, but it's one of those things. Again, it can be manipulated in a way, but it can't be completely hacked because
and
we can't let you control it.
We spoke about this a little while ago, and I'm going to talk about chronotypes shortly because it's super important. But we spoke about this a little while ago about you telling me to get out early in the morning and walk out with no sunnies on and let that light into my eyes. And that can be a way if you find yourself falling asleep a little bit earlier in the night and getting up really early. So a lot of elderly people, their circadian rhythm shifts, so they tend to fall asleep earlier in the night and wake up earlier. A good way to sort of reprogram those circadian rhythms and shift them a little bit forward is to get up and get your not get up and hit that early light exposure earlier in the morning and get a lot of light exposure in the afternoon. And that's going to sort of shift those circadian rhythms forward. Now, your circadian rhythms do change all throughout your life. So they're not really set in stone. But we do have natural chronotypes. So have you heard of the night owls or the morning larks, or have you heard those terms, Nick?
Heard terms. I haven't gone too much into them, so I've heard bits about them. Not too bad.
What are you, man? What's your natural sleep cycle? Like if you go away on holidays, you don't have alarms set. When do you just naturally get up, and when do you naturally fall asleep?
I naturally get up. Yeah, I'm an early chronotype. I get up. I'm naturally up at 5:30.
I'm the other way, man.
I'm
like happy 7:30, 8 a.m. I get up. I go to bed late. I'll be like midnight. If I don't have any events that I have to get up for, that's just my natural sleep cycle, and that's when I'm happiest. And it's really, really interesting because I've always been that way, and I've always had people say, "Fuck, get up early, don't be lazy." And it was when I started doing a bit of research for this talk that I learned about these chronotypes, and that they're very fucking real. They've tested them and found that they're very real. They're fact. This is not fucking theory. It's factual that some people just sleep later and get up later, and some people sleep earlier and get up earlier. And there's a really, really strong reason for it from an evolutionary standpoint. When we were 20,000 years ago, we're in tribes, we're sleeping in fucking tents around the fire, and there's like saber-toothed tigers, pretty fucking hungry at night. For the whole tribe to go to sleep for 8 hours, not so good. So we evolved to naturally have some people that were getting up super early and some people that were getting up super late. And that way, the whole tribe is not out of action for 8 hours. The whole tribe might be out of action for 2 hours. So, from an evolutionary standpoint, we're social creatures. The herd is protected by this natural chronotype. This becomes a problem, though, when you get someone like, say, myself, who always went to sleep super late. And had to get up early and go to school, and was in school fucking like this because I didn't want to be there that early in the morning. Same as my jobs where I've started super early. Like, it's never really gelled with me, but when I can work on my own schedule, I find productivity. So the problem is we have these like natural chronotypes that are very real, and they exist, and genetically you've got what you've got. And if your parents were late people, you're probably going to be a late person. If you're somebody who is programmed to work late and society tells you that you have to be at work at 8 a.m., you're sort of fucked. And they actually find that people with these chronotypes of being late sleepers, who are about 30% of the population, have much higher risk of heart disease, much higher risk of stroke, higher rates of depression, higher anxiety, because they're just getting deprived of their sleep, because when society is telling them to sleep, they're not fucking sleeping. So it's super interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely a late riser, but Dominica is a early riser. She gets up at like 5 a.m., 4:30, 5 a.m. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, my wife's the same. She loves her. She could sleep in. Like, she tries to get up around 6. She's getting more. She's trying to program herself a little more for that, which is slowly been like a long 4-5 year stretch now to try and get herself to doing 6 a.m. comfortably. So it can be changed, but it's a lot of work, and you've got to.
I find that's a little bit conflicting in what I found. I don't think it can be. I don't think it can be changed. You can probably influence it a little bit. Like, I know when I was doing PT, face-to-face PT, and I was starting at 5 a.m. every day, when I was really in the rhythm of it, I was functioning. But I don't think I was functioning quite as good as I am when I'm just getting up on my own schedule at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. What I find suffers is the creative stuff. So the creative stuff for me is the stuff that I lose. Like, I do my best creative work when I sort of sleep to my own schedule.
Interesting.
And
like for me, it's a little opposite, because I did the whole lifetime where it was late sleeping and stuff like that. Being creative in animation and games design, I thought that was the nighttime was my creative factor. But now if I'm mornings are just because of all the long time of programming myself to get up ridiculously early. At 4:30 every time, 5:30 now is just a natural.
It's just your default.
And I find I'm up, and my wife, it's freaking hilarious. She'll come to me sometimes and she'll be like, I'll be talking to her and she's like, how many coffees you had? And I'm going, oh shit, I should probably make myself a coffee. I haven't had one yet. And she's like, you're this alert and you haven't had a coffee yet at this time. I was like, yeah. And that's what I mean. I now find that this is awesome. But as I said, it could be right. I could have not been actually just been going because I was being lazy and just wanted to sleep. And I've been at a uni student and stuff, and afternoon just seemed that way. Whereas now morning, because I don't want to sleep, I might be in a better, my chronotype might be better for it. Yeah. So it's interesting to think about now with the way you put it that way too.
I think anyone can be made to work on any routine, but you're going to have a routine that you're going to function more optimally on. And the best way to find that is when you go away on holidays for 2 or 3 weeks and you have no alarms. And it takes you a couple of days like when you're away on holidays, it takes you a couple of days to adjust. But eventually you just start waking up at a pretty accurate time every day and sort of naturally going to sleep at a pretty accurate time every day. As long as you're not doing like Netflix binging and stuff that's keeping you up at night. That's going to fuck with you. But yeah, you can find your natural rhythm. Andrew asked, have either of you, through long endurance tracers experience hallucination? Can you snap out of it, or is there a point of no return? Answer now or later. Yeah, fucking heaps, man. You see shit, you hear shit, you fucking think shit, you feel shit. Dude, when you're running like 24-hour enduros at like 4 a.m, you see all sorts of shit in the trees, in the shadows. Mick, have you ever hallucinated?
Oh, there's been some good ones. I'm lucky because a few of them have been when I've been doing my own little punishment for myself, and I usually have a bucket of ice water ready to jump, like a tub of ice water to jump myself in to set myself. So that's helps. But my funniest one would have been like when I did my 24-hour challenge. At one point, I thought I lost the blindfold and stuff like that, and I thought I could see again.
Yeah, wow.
And I literally was like, shit. Like, it was funny. I was like, shit, I fucked up. I've lost the blindfold. Oh God, no, I've lost the challenge because it was a 24-hour blind challenge. And then I went on my face. I was like, wait, I'm still wearing it. I'm not actually seeing. I literally thought I could see myself and see my hands and shit. And I was like, no, blindfold's still there, because my brother that was keeping track of me and making sure I was taking to the bathroom. And I was like, idiot, you're still wearing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had that. It's always funny.
You almost go into a bit of a fucking dream state. You sort of lapse in and out of, like, you're almost asleep on your feet. You're probably dipping into REM almost, which is pretty fucking crazy. I've certainly had like full micro sleeps. I can think of one when I was at the 24-hour enduro, coming around to like the P dam, and you're sort of veering off around to the right, and you're following these witches' hats. So you're just like watching them with your headlamp. And by this point, I was maybe in like a slow, cliffy, shuffled sort of jog, or I was walking, one of the two. Yeah, I just remember sort of going and following the witches' hats, and then next second, I'm like fucking 300 meters just into the bush, and I've just walked a dead straight line, and I'm just walking through like I'm not even on a trail. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I've like looked, and I could see like the light of the P dam, and I had to like backtrack to the trail, but I've just started walking on autopilot. I was literally asleep on my feet. And you see that a lot in the enduro. You see people like walking along and their just eyes are closed. It's fucking crazy. Crazy the shit we put ourselves through. Darren said
it all sounds like fun.
Yeah, definitely. Crazy what we put out. Sorry. Darren said I looked like at an ordering a few months ago. Cost was a killer. Yeah, they are pricey. Somebody said Neanderthal shift worker. Yeah. Matty Probe says Half-Life. I don't know.
That's Matty.
Hey, Matty. Somebody said, how do you retrain yourself back to good sleep? Haven't slept through the night for 6 years. Yeah, we'll definitely cover that at the end. How do we get more sleep? Depending on how we go for time, I reckon we might even split this into 2 episodes, because I do want to try and keep these relatively short. What do you reckon, Mick? I don't think we've gone over 90 minutes, and we're nearly an hour already.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if this one was not a double, because let's face it,
it's a big topic.
There's a reason we took the extra time as well. We've been going hard in this one.
It's a big topic. So you've got these. I think that's what we'll do. I think today we'll talk about what is sleep, really examining what it is. Next time we might talk about how do you make your sleep better, how do you improve your sleep. Yeah, so you have these chronotypes, you have these circadian rhythms too, and they do shift throughout your life. So when you're a child, your circadian rhythms come backwards. So you tend to get up super early, go to sleep super early. So anyone with a 3 or a 4-year-old knows that they get up at 5 a.m. and they're asleep by 9 p.m. Or earlier. But as they get a little bit older, that circadian rhythm will shift. They'll start to naturally sleep a little bit later. And then when people become teenagers, their circadian rhythms shift forwards. And they shift to teenagers tend to sleep later and get up later. And we don't really know exactly why this is, but the leading theory on why these rhythms shift forward is because when you're a teenager and you're sort of going through that puberty and you're really splitting off this dependence from your parents, and that's why the sleep cycles come out of tune, so that as a teenager, you're now awake when adults are asleep with your peers, and that gives you a chance to bond with who your new family is as you get away from your family. So it's to sort of create that separation, and pretty much every mammal has that point where they raise their kids up to a point where their kids either branch off and go their separate ways, or whatever it is. So we think that's why those circadian rhythms shift like that. And then you go back into your natural chronotype or whatever it is through most of your adult life. And then as you go later in life, your circadian rhythms will shift backwards again, like they were when you were a young child, and you tend to go to bed a little bit earlier and you get up earlier, which is why dinner time in nursing homes is like 5 p.m.
Yeah, it also, the teenage thing also comes in because that's when you start getting your biggest increase in the production of your hormone levels, like, estrogen, testosterone, stuff like that, the development stuff. You also then, they trigger the offset of, more serotonin, oxytocin, and all those other fancy big words about the releasing of chemicals and hormones. And that's where you'll get that bigger dump. And because your body's getting used to handling them when as you get older, that's why we go back, because you've got a control of them more. Whereas the teenage years are your most development years. Just like, there's a perfect example of why you need it for recovery. If you're doing it to sleep more as a recovery as a teenager, why don't we do it more as for training?
100%. So there's two factors that are at play with telling your body to sleep. So when you get the end of the day, the end of your dip in your circadian rhythm as the sun goes down, well, it peaks about 2 p.m. and then starts to come back down. And as it gets later and later, you start to feel more and more tired. This is when your body's starting to produce more melatonin, less cortisol because there's no blue light. And then as we get back towards the dawn, it shifts back the other way. The melatonin gets suppressed. The cortisol gets released, which is the stress hormone, which gets you out of bed. So we have these natural circadian rhythms, but we also have what they call sleep pressure. And this is basically a chemical called adenosine. And you have adenosine when you're awake. You essentially, as soon as you wake up, you start this adenosine timer. And this adenosine just accumulates and just keeps ticking up and ticking up and ticking up. And the longer you're awake, the more adenosine ticks up, the sleepier you get. So if you've been awake for 24 hours, you're pretty fucking sleepy. If you've been awake for 48 hours, you're really fucking sleepy. 72 hours, you can literally fall asleep standing up easily. But this adenosine and circadian rhythms, they don't actually sync up as such. So this is why, Mick, you'd be really familiar with this in 24-hour enduro, where you start at, say, midday and you go all the way through the night at about like 3, 4 in the morning, when your circadian rhythm's telling you to sleep and you've been going fucking hard for hours and hours and hours, your adenosine's really high. You're getting these everything in your body's telling you to sleep, and that time of the night is fucking hard. But once that sun comes up, now your circadian rhythms are telling you that it's time to wake up. So even though you've been awake for a long time, you actually hit this second high, you hit this second wave. And early in the morning, you're actually like, well, I actually feel pretty good. But then all of a sudden the adenosine will hit again, and then you're like, no, actually I'm fucking drunk again. And then the circadian rhythms will hit again, and then you're like, no, it's morning, I'm good. And that's why you can sort of have this I'm awake but I'm asleep happening at the same time. So that's your sleep pressure and your circadian rhythms are not actually synced up, and that's sort of why you get that second wind. How good is a second wind after like a 12-hour hurricane heat or something like that, Nick?
Oh, nothing beats it. Like, you literally do feel like a new person almost for like the first hour. Then it's like, oh shit, no, I'm still going. But yeah, no, that's a perfect example. That's exactly what happens. I mean, I felt the same thing when I did that 24-hour blindfold. Even though I couldn't see the sunlight, my body, the receptors in my skin could, and that's helped me pick up through the last.
They reckon they reckon your body's really good at picking up the sunlight, like through your skin. And they've done tests of like letting sunlight hit people's feet in the mornings, and they've watched the cortisol like spike just from the vitamin D or whatever it is coming through the skin. just immediately setting it off. But also the circadian rhythms in place, for the guys who went into cave and they had no sunlight at all, they were still getting the same triggers and the same releases.
Yeah.
So your internal clock works whether there's a fucking eclipse or not. So it's super interesting. Let's talk about like when you're actually sleeping, what's going on, and I think we'll just sort of probably kill it after that because we've been going a while already.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before we've got like REM sleep, we've got that really shallow sleep, and then you've got you basically got two different types of sleep. Two main types. You've got REM, the random eye movement. Most people will be familiar, and non-REM. That's pretty much it. So you've got REM sleep and you've got NREM. NREM is your deep sleep, and it typically comes in 4 stages: stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 NREM. And the deeper you go into the stage, the deeper the sleep, the harder somebody wake. The less susceptible they're going to be to sounds waking them up, stuff like that. Both types of sleep have different purposes. And when you cycle through your, say, 90-minute sleep cycle, you're going both into NREM and REM. You said before, Mick, that sleep's super important for memory storage. So that's all happening in NREM. So when you are in NREM sleep, which is I'm dead, when somebody's in a deep sleep, not dreaming, they're in NREM sleep. That's when the body is taking, it's when it's in that like really rest stage. Melatonin's high, it's restoring the skin, all stuff like that. That's also when you're like during the day when you're awake, as you're exposed to things and you learn things and you see things, everything's going into your short-term memory storage, which is what you mentioned before. And it's a part of the brain called the hippocampus. And your short-term memory storage only has a certain amount of memory. So eventually it fills up. And then the only way to put more into it is to forget something else that you've learned. So it's really important that you get NREM sleep, because that's basically what your body's doing when it's taking memories out of your hippocampus, that short-term memory storage, and it's putting them into your long-term memory storage, which is your neocortex. So NREM is super, super important. Do you have anything to add there, Mick?
No, that's perfect. That's exactly right. Like NREM is so important. And the deeper the REM, the more production of theta waves that are actually going on in the brain, which actually helps cause this happen. And this is a perfect example, like of, we've all had those, some of us have had those moments where we might have gone out and had a few too much to drink and we don't remember a thing. And that's because with drinking alcohol, we don't get those deeper sleep. We don't get that really stage 3 and 4 theta wave sleep to make those memories into long-term memories.
Yeah,
and that's why we can be
alcohol is one of the best suppressants of sleep that we know of.
Oh yeah.
It's also a really, really good REM sleep suppressant, alcohol. So, and we'll get into REM as well, because that's really important. An interesting thing about we were talking about when you get sleep debt before. So if I keep you up for 48 hours straight, if you were to go to sleep after being awake for 48 hours, you're probably going to sleep for like 15 hours, right? Most likely.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when you have that first catch-up sleep, you're going to catch up on way more NREM, which is like the dead, you're not dreaming, you're just fucking in a dead slumber. Your brain's going to feast on this NREM sleep when you do your first catch-up sleep. But in subsequent nights, your body will actually rebound the other way and you'll get a lot more REM sleep, which is the random eye movement.
Yeah.
So they're both important, but the NREM is what's going to teach lobster where the best place to get food is in his environment. So all animals have NREM because that's where we're gonna remember the important facts that we learn about the world. But we do go into this REM sleep, which is our dreaming. This is when our eyes are moving, and what they reckon is going on, and we don't really know anything for sure with our sleep, but what they reckon is going on with our REM sleep and when we're dreaming is that's when our brains are creating new infrastructure. That's when our brains are creating new synapses and linking all the information that we've created to each other. So this is when you have creative ideas. This is when you learn to solve problems in new ways because you now have new information in the brain that your NREM has archived and stored, and now your REM sleep is linking it all together. And that's why when you dream, you're remembering random shit from the day with something that happened last week, and it all sort of fuses together, and different people that you meet are in your dreams, and it's all real fucked up. Do you dream much, Mick?
Yep. Well, yeah, the ones I remember. I mean, there's times I don't remember them. REM sleep's also really when you're most susceptible to your environment as well.
Mm.
Like if you've ever had, I know for me, I've experienced this plenty of times where I've had a sleep and there might be TV on in the background, and next you know that show is in my dreams.
Yeah, 100%.
But if I'm completely bang tired, I can leave the TV on and there'll be nothing.
Yeah, so
because I've gone deeper. Yeah,
and it's a difference in your body turning off the gates of those the sensory input coming in. So when you're in that NREM, everything's turned off. Whereas when you're in REM, you maybe can hear the sounds. That's how you can. That's how your alarm clock can come into your dream, and you can hear the beeps in your dream, and you're like, "What the fuck's going on?" And then you wake up and realize the alarm's gone off. But interestingly enough, when you're in REM sleep, you are completely fucking limp. So you can tell somebody's in REM because their body's like completely sagged. Whereas when you're awake or even in NREM, your body always holds some sort of global tension. Like your muscles are always a little bit contracted. Whereas when you're in REM sleep, dreaming, you are completely fucking limp. And anyone who's ever woken up with a bit of sleep paralysis, like when you wake up and you're awake, but you're completely fucking paralyzed and you shit yourself and you think there's demons on your chest and all sorts of fucked up stuff. That's basically what's happening. Your body's waking up, but you're still paralyzed. And the reason we get this paralysis is so that you don't act out your dreams. And there's been tragic instances of people who have acted out their dreams and died and hurt themselves in big ways because they're running in their dreams, so they run into a fucking wall while they're asleep. So REM's really interesting. Anything else to add there, Mick?
No, not really. I like that. Was covered a lot on that one. That was good. What you did there. I don't know about the REM.
Let's have a look at the comments. Matty Probes says, "I've missed this. Watch the replay. Sleep is massive. Make sure you do, my man." He said, "I probably have 1 or 2 days a week where I struggle to sleep. Might be flared back. It might be a flared up back. Overthinking too much, or maybe worried about something I need to do the next day. Any suggestions to counteract this?" Yeah, we'll definitely go into this. I think next week we'll do a part 2 on this because this is such a big topic, and there's honestly so much. Like I've got notes and stuff written down, and we're not even fucking halfway through my notes, and we're already sort of at our time cap. So, and I imagine Mick, you're the same way,
mate. Yeah, this is. That hack when we get in that hack inside, we got some stuff there.
Yeah, which is what I wanted to chat to you about because you're a body hacker, man. You're you love all this stuff, like hacking the performance in different ways, which is why we're doing these talks, to be honest. Matty Probes also says he can't sleep before Spartan or City to Surf. Darren Williamson says we'll have to watch the replay to catch the rest. Got to go. And Andrew, I'm in movie marathon every night. Netflix is the enemy. It's the fucking enemy. The worst thing Netflix did was release the automated flow from episode to episode, where it just like the episode ends and it's like 5 seconds. We will play this next episode, and
Yeah.
they worked out that they did a study across Breaking Bad. So the show Breaking Bad, and they were watching how many episodes people would watch in a row, and when they brought in that 5 second till next episode, the binge rate went up like 900%, because now it takes out your choice of I'm going to watch another episode, and it just turns into automatic. Like you just, instead of watching, I'm gonna go to sleep and watch an episode of Breaking Bad, it's like I'm gonna go and put on Breaking Bad until I fucking pass out from exhaustion, and it's it's a bad thing. Screens are the fucking enemy. I read a book probably a month ago. I finished it. It's called Irresistible, by a guy called Adam.
Good book.
Like why we're addicted to technology, and he spoke all about like having your phone in the bedroom and waking up in the middle of the night, rolling over and checking it. And I was bad for it, man. Like I'd roll over at 2 a.m. and I'd look at my phone to see what time it was, and then I'd see all the notifications, and I'm like, oh, I'll just check my emails. Oh, I'll just check my messages. Oh, I'll just fucking look at Facebook, and an hour later, I go to sleep, and then I'm wide awake, and it was fucked. And if you're somebody who talks to me pretty regularly through messages, you might find that I'm a little bit harder to get a hold of now, because I have this charger in the office that does my phone, my AirPods, and my watch, and I put my phone in here every night, and I don't look at it until the morning. And just my quality of sleep has gone up just from that little hack, just taking the phone out of the bedroom. You said you put your phone in airplane mode, Mick?
I put mine in airplane mode. I slowly transitioned it out now as I got my sunlight lamp working again. So
yeah, and let's talk about that. You mentioned that last week, the sunlight lamp. So that as your programmed awaken time comes, the light gets brighter and brighter. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, because again, our bodies are receptive to light. Even if you've got like masks on and stuff like that, your body's still receptive to light. It's also, though, the other thing about it is by taking my phone out. I mean, flight mode's good. It's good, but it's not the best. The best thing is having your phone out, not just because there's that whole I can just check my phone habit, but your phone is an electrical device. It is emitting an electrical magnetic field, which most of us put it next to our headlamp. Into a bed head, right next to our bed where our head is. So that is having very close contact with our brain frequency, which is also going to cause you not to get as deep theta waves, because it can affect the transmission of the theta waves.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why you've probably found another reason why your sleep's gone up is because not only you're not checking your phone, that electromagnetic field that would normally be right next to your head is out.
Yeah.
But again, going on the sun lamp, it is because, again, I wanted to mimic more of the rising sun. So no matter my location, as the sun rises, my body will get that trainability to be sort of more receptive to it. And it wakes me up more gently, even with my timing of my sleep cycles and stuff like that. I'm not waking in that deeper sleep, which can sometimes cause, as you said, the paralysis and stuff, because you're waking up before a time before your body's actually awake.
Yeah, so that the sun lamp will let you naturally wake up, as opposed to just a sound that's going to fucking jar you out of it, whether you're halfway through an MREM cycle or a REM cycle. So there's a certain. So I think that sleep cycle app that you said, I used to use it years ago, and it picks up you have it next to the bed, on the bed, and it picks up your movement. And you'll move, as I said, when you're in REM, you're not moving at all. When you're in NREM, you are moving, and it picks up how many times you move through the night, and it calculates what cycle you're in. And what I used to do with it when I was using it was, you'd say, I need to get up at 6 a.m. and it'll pick a half an hour window in the time that you're going to wake up, and it might wake you up at 5:40, but you wake up feeling great. And everyone's had that time where you have your alarm set for 6 a.m. and you wake up at 5:40 and you're like, fuck, I feel amazing. But I've got 20 minutes more sleep. I'm going to sleep. And then at 6 a.m. you wake up and you're fucked. You're like groggy and drooling and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And you feel like shit. And that's where we're talking about when you interrupt those sleep cycles. So the sun lamp does a really good job of that, Nick.
Yeah, it does a really great job of it, because again, the light sort of exposes you, and it does have an alarm and noise factor, but because the sun is rising, it will help me get there sooner.
Mm.
So like half the time I wake up before it even goes off, which is great.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't piss off my wife as much.
Yeah.
She that.
Happy wife,
But
happy
yeah,
life.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I like the sun because then I go from there and I'll do my morning routine and then I'll go out and get real sunlight, which is gold standard, of course.
Yeah.
Not just for a cognitive function, not just for circadian rhythm, but also hormone production and stuff like that. They've shown that exposing your entire body to morning sunlight can increase testosterone and stuff like that by almost 200%.
So get out in the sun, dude, is what Mick's saying.
Absolutely.
Sure. I'm reading between the lines, Michael.
Basically, yeah, because it's got there's the infrared light that comes from natural sunlight that does cause those productions, and that's what your body triggers on, and that causes warmth and all that beautiful stuff. And this is what I love about the sun lamp. It allows me to sort of mimic the parts of, not the good parts where it's increasing the hormone production stuff, but mimic the circadian rhythm parts of actually waking my body up to the idea of light exposure.
Yeah, which is cool. So we've definitely covered what sleep is and why we sleep. What we haven't really covered today is what happens if you don't get enough of it, and then how to get enough of it. So I think that's probably going to segue into the second episode on sleep. I think that'll be a really good one. So if you guys have been watching today and learnt a few things, next week we're going to tell you how to action shit, how to actually change shit. With what we've covered today, Mick, can you think of anything to add? I know people are like, just tell me how to get a better fucking sleep. But we could really talk for like half an hour about that.
Oh, easily half an hour at the least, and that's if we cut it down by a lot.
I can talk for half an hour about pretty much nothing. So this is actually an important topic.
Yeah, I know. Like, I think we've covered enough because this is, as I said, this is a very dense subject, and I don't want to throw too much out because at some point, just like as we're talking about quality of sleep, the information quality will get just. And the fact that we've made this a two-part should let you guys really see how important and how much we're really into this, and how like this is as we said, we've gone way more into this than we've done breath, done all the other stuff, because this is
it's
a
huge.
game changer. You have to follow this and it's implemented.
Man, I would say I've been the last 2 weeks. This is all I've been learning about is sleep, and I've been on a particular book called Why We Sleep by a guy called Matthew Waller. I think is where I've gotten Matthew Walker. Why We Sleep. That's where I've gotten, to be honest, a lot of the information. But it's all scientifically backed studies. He's like the world's best scientist. And it's really been like one of those books, and I'm a pretty voracious reader, and I know you are as well, Mick, but it's really been one of those books that's like fucking leveled me up. Like we read, I know you read a lot, I read a lot. I try to read a book a week. I stay to about a book a fortnight. Always like personal development stuff, and you pick up like little nuggets out of each book where you read and you pick up 4 or 5 things, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm going to action that. But every now and again, you come across a book and you're like, how the fuck has nobody taught me this shit? How did I not learn this shit in school? How the fuck have I gotten to 32 and I didn't come across this information sooner? And it's the same way I felt when I read that breath book by James Nestor. That was something that just fucking game changer. And as a coach, already I started to implement some of the things, the breath work and stuff that I learned. And as a coach, I'm now seeing 20, 30, 40 people implement those changes and seeing their performance change. And to be honest, this sleep book that I'm reading is going to have the same impact on the performance coaching that I do with my clients. And I know you're fucking all about it, Mick, all about this stuff with your clients.
Oh yeah, mate, this is, well, as you look at it, we've talked about so many things, but none of it's been about having to go buy regular crap. It's about skills, and that's what sleep is. It's still, it's a lost art.
Yeah,
we've
100%.
lost the ability to understand the power of it, and that's.
Well, I think we're just. I think there's just a general apathy towards it. I think people don't care. Like people will, and we said right at the start, you know, somebody will go to the pub, you be at the pub with your mates, and your mate's like, all right, I'm going to go, and he'll grab his keys, and you're like, mate, you just had fucking, you know, 8 beers. You shouldn't be getting in the car. Get an Uber, mate. I'll pay for your fucking Uber. But your mate who's just done a 24-hour shift, and you're both nurses or something, you'll go out for a coffee, and then after the coffee, you're like, all right, see us, and you'll get in your car, and you won't attach the same reasoning, even though if you've been awake for 24 hours, you're way more fucking impaired than somebody who's had 8 beers. So it's a really, really big thing. It's something that we don't care about as a society, and it's fucking enormous. And what, you know, I opened today's episode, and if you tuned in when we were already a little bit in, I implore you to go back and watch the beginning. I opened with the benefits of, you know, this is what sleep does. And I think next week I'll open up with, this is what's going to happen if you don't fucking get it.
Oh yeah.
Because it's super effective. And we'll just roll through some comments. Ree, I have no issues sleeping. Lay down and I'm out, but would love to be able to sleep past 4 a.m. on my day off. I'm interested to know how long do you sleep? So I don't care whether you get up at 4. I don't care whether you get up at 8. I'm not super worried about how long it takes you to get sleep. Time of sleep is the one that I'd be interested in. I tend to take a lot longer to fall asleep. Dominica, she's like, do you want to watch a movie, Matt? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care what you choose, because after 8 minutes, you're going to be asleep. And then I'm going to put on what I want to watch.
I mean,
Probably
like,
not.
if as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm gone with my. I mean, this one I'm looking forward to next week talking about sleep hacking, because, like, yeah, I've got my routine that as soon as I hit the bed, my little app shows me I go straight, bang, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Within 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah. Matty Probe says, where did you get the sun lamp from? When I went and bought the when I decided to put the phone in the office instead of the bedroom, I went and bought some alarm clocks. Well, I bought a alarm clock at JB Hi-Fi, and I ended up just getting like a $29 old school like clock radio. But I think I saw a sun lamp, but I think it was like $250, and I'm like, I don't need a sun lamp that bad. But then you mentioned you had one, and I'll probably transition to one.
I got 120 eBay.
eBay, cool. I might
message you and find 120 out. Or something like that, or on the internet. There's plenty of stuff out there now. There's way
120's all right. I'll pay that.
120.
Somebody who is an anonymous Facebook user. Can you retrain your body to sleep better if you've been a shift worker for over 30 years, or has lack of sleep been too long, too late? Does anyone have suggestions for restless legs? I've tried magnesium oil. Looking forward to the next episode. There's definitely plenty of things you can do to increase the efficiency of your sleep. And Mick said he's got a good routine. We'll definitely go through that next episode, like how to get better sleep, how to get better quality sleep. I will tell you though, as a shift worker, you're sort of fucked. Shift workers have a much higher rate of heart attack, stroke, diabetes, depression, anxiety, because you are just fighting against your body's natural circadian rhythms. So think about whenever you've traveled somewhere and had jet lag, and it takes you a few days to fucking recover. As a shift worker, you're basically just doing that continuously. And I know people, like when I used to work shifts, I was pretty good at it. Like if I knew I had to go from day shift into night shift, the way that I would do it is pull an all-nighter. So I would finish my day shift, I would stay awake all night until the morning, then I would go to sleep, and then I'd sleep for like 10 hours. So the way I did it to sort of reset into the cycles was I would stay awake as long as I could. But that's not really a good fix. But yeah, if you're a shift worker, you're sort of fucked. Have you ever done shifts, Mick?
Yeah, actually, I did a few at that ballet airport, Jake.
It's not good.
It's one of those problems how we think everything's got to be going 24 hours again because of there's light everywhere.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing that you said earlier about if you get into the real schedule of getting up early, you just function on that routine. And we are really good when we have routines. We're also really good at establishing baselines. So if you are eating quite healthy and you have McDonald's, you're going to feel like fucking shit. You're probably going to be in the bathroom. You're going to have cramps. You're going to have all sorts of stuff go wrong. But if you eat McDonald's every day for 3 weeks, you'll probably start to feel pretty normal. And it won't be until you go back to eating healthy and then you're like, wow, I feel so much fucking better. But you didn't realize how shit you felt when you're eating shit food because you don't have that reference point. And the sleep is the same. So when you are constantly not getting enough sleep, you sort of retrain this baseline and you think, I can get by in 4 hours a night and I'm fine. I'm performing optimally. But it's not until you get your sleep right that you go, fuck, I was not performing optimally. Like I was fucked. I think of the times back when I worked crazy hours and when I didn't sleep properly or I worked shifts, and I look at the other aspects of my life and I'm like, I really didn't have my shit together. Like my anxiety was up, I was drinking more, I was fucking stressed, my relationships weren't good. I wasn't performing very well athletically or anything. So is that correlation or causation? Is it because I wasn't getting enough sleep that all those things were fucked? And essentially, yes. If you deprive people of sleep, all that shit goes wrong. So yeah, it's if you're a shift worker, you're sort of fucked. But it's a risk reward thing, right? You gotta weigh it up. Kerry's looking forward to part 2. Corey, you talk about nothing in yin yoga quite often, Matt. Yes, Matt. I do every Wednesday night in my client group. I do a live yin yoga Q&A session with my clients. It goes for 60 minutes. And if people aren't asking questions, I just talk about fucking nonsense. What was the book I'm on now? I'll post a picture of it in the comments, but it's called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Very good. Usually about 6 hours. All right, girl. Next episode, I'm going to give you the stats on some sleep studies that got people to sleep continuously for 6 hours and then got people to sleep continuously for 4 hours or continuously for 3 hours a night. Can be 8 hours. And we'll show you what is happening when you're getting 6 hours sleep a night, because I would say that's probably the average amount that people live on, 6 to 7 hours. Mick, would you think that'd be about right?
Yep.
And we're all walking around like fucking zombies, and we've all got anxiety and we're all fucking anxious and we're all energy levels are fucked, and you don't know you're fucked because your baseline says you're normal and you think you're good, but you're not. So the anonymous person was Fran. So we'll wrap it up there, Mick. Anything else to add?
Nothing for this stuff. Like as I said, nothing. I want to leave it there. Actually, I think it was a really good note to leave it on.
Yeah, I think because we're going to shift gears and go a different direction next call. What I will say, guys, is the OMR 28-day reset kicks off. The group is already up. People are already in. It starts Friday morning. People will get their first challenge, but I will be accepting people until midnight tomorrow. So that's going to be a little 28-day challenge, 28-day online reset to bounce out of 2020. Mick, I hope you're joining me in there. That's gonna be fucking incredible. So if you want more information on that, comment below. Anything else, Mick? You got anything to plug?
Not at the moment, no. Nothing.
Are you coming to the extreme? Are you coming to the Spartan boot camp next week?
Oh yeah, I'll be up there running it. I'm one of the guys that
cool.
one of the trainers running it.
Yeah, cool. I'll be there as well. I was there with Lindsay, the owner, yesterday. She came up to the Sunny Coast. So that's the next of the Spartan GC boot camps will be at Urban Extreme, a gym up in Brisbane, and both Mick and myself will be there putting Spartans through their paces next Sunday, I believe. So I will update the link in my bio, guys, my IG on my Facebook bio, and the details will be there. So yeah, anyone wants info about the challenge or the boot camps, let me know below. And as usual, send either Michael or myself your questions. Reese says, lol, I know about 6 hours sleep. And Devin says, interstate trucking, awful for regular sleep patterns. Yeah, man, I used to do it for a little while. I used to drive ATMs all over New South Wales and used to sleep terribly. All right, let's wrap up there. Thanks for joining us for another week. We're bang on 90 minutes. You enjoy the rest of your. Kerry just said, "What the fuck? Thought it was the 7th." I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you're talking about, Kerry. What's the 7th? I have no idea.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up there. Kerry, send me a message. All right. See you guys.